Hello, I'm Jim Riley. Welcome to a special edition of Connections. And with me today is my guest, James Reynolds, President of Mid-Hudson Cablevision. James,
Jim,
welcome.
Always
nice
a
to
pleasure.
See you. Well, you know, this is the only way I get to visit with you. I know how busy you are, so if we can schedule a show once in a while, then we get a chance to spend time
Seems
together.
like we schedule them all the time.
Well, the thing is,
I think people are getting tired of seeing us.
Well, I hope not, because we really are very charming, and we're interesting.
Just trying to pass information along. That's the main idea.
I think, and it's been a good vehicle for that. I find we get a lot of feedback out in the community that they like getting this information. Let's look at our agenda for today. We're starting out with the upgraded broadband system. Tell us a little bit about what you've been doing there.
Well, I think the last 3 programs, maybe more, we've been talking about the ongoing program to upgrade the data network, which everybody uses to connect themselves to the internet. Everybody has a cable modem or some method if they want to access the internet.
Right.
And we, over the last year and a half, even longer, have been faced with a increasing utilization, meaning more and more people are using more and more bandwidth.
Right, because there are so many different kinds of inputs that they can get with products that are downloaded and things that they can do. Tell us a little bit about some of those things and what they are.
Well, we had one show that we had a laptop, we had an iPad, we had a smartphone, and you know, now you see Apple's new iPhone 6,
right,
and then they've got 6 Plus.
Right. See, and it's growing. Well,
6 Plus is almost as big as the iPad Mini or the big Samsung phone.
Right.
The point is that people are getting these phones. Apple sold 10 million on the first weekend, I think.
That's hard to believe, but it's
anyway,
true. Yeah.
They bring the iPhone into the house. They've got a tablet, whether it's an iPad or somebody else's, a Microsoft tablet. They've got computers. Younger people have 3 or 4 gadgets, devices
right,
that they're connecting. And then above and beyond all of that, the 2 big things that impact utilization are streaming content, which is tied directly to Netflix,
right,
and your
yeah,
use of YouTube.
Right, and that's big. Now there's 2 things about YouTube. One is it's video clips, it's music. By the way, I found complete operas on
Do you know
there,
how much bandwidth that takes to show you an opera?
It's got to be remarkable. But what's happened is that people insist on it, and it's got to work.
So there's research that's showing that broadband utilization, in other words, people connecting to the internet, is doubling about every 18 months.
Right.
It's not possible for us to stand still and keep the same network in place because it would become congested. And when it becomes congested, meaning too many people trying to use it at the same time, it slows down. I don't know whether you've ever been streaming a movie and it shows like it's working, but it's not connecting right away. It's looking for the broadband connection so it can stream that content, the capacity to do it.
Right.
So we have to constantly monitor that and build in new electronics, build in faster connections, and we have, over the last year, spent a lot of time and made a big investment in new infrastructure. We've done a program showing some of the hub sites that we've upgraded,
right,
and we're going to continue to do that. But I think today, main thing that we want to try to communicate is that we've made some improvements and there's still more work to do. However, in many cases, we can bring a perfectly good signal right outside your house, and you can have a bad experience inside.
Right.
And that could happen because maybe there's some kind of a virus on your computer. Maybe there's a problem with your wireless router, because most people have a wireless environment inside their home. They take the cable modem and they connect to a router, and then they make it
Right.
Wi-Fi so that they can go wherever they want in the house.
Right, because that's the other part you're talking about. As your service comes in the home, they don't want to run to one spot and just deal with it there. They're going to all their devices, and that may require some kind of equipment inside the house that has issues.
Yeah, and so we had an example recently where a library called us up, and we know that we have a fast connection into the library. And they said, everything's slow. It's really not good. You know, people are having a bad experience. We went out there, and turns out there were just too many computers trying to share the same connection. And so what has to happen is they have to go to a faster connection or get a secondary connection. You have to break up the congregation of users,
Right.
For that one location. Other examples are, you might have in one house a couple of people that want to play games, these online games. They consume an enormous amount of bandwidth, and so they can cause problems. But we've also invested, and I think we're going to show some screenshots.
Yes, that's going to happen.
They're
so.
very technical,
Right.
but
visually, when they see it, I think it'll be easier for them to understand.
basically we want to communicate that we've invested in software that allow us to look, preventative maintenance software. We can go online. If you call up and you say, I'm having a bad experience, we can actually look at online the levels on your cable modem, and we can see, is that cable modem working too hard? Is that cable modem working at optimum levels to provide the best experience? If not, what's the problem?
Right.
Is it out on our network? And it's actually a screenshot that will show little red dots, for example, of cable modems that are not working properly.
Right.
And so if we look in your area and we see 15 or 20 little dots, we know pretty clearly that we've got a network problem
Right.
in that area. If we see one red dot at your house, we think that we've got something internal. And so we want to just communicate to folks that we've got new tools to diagnose the issues for the internet, and to make sure that you have a good experience. And even though we've improved the speeds and the utilization, you might have a problem, and we need to know that, and we can diagnose it online, and we can decide, do we have to send somebody, and if we do, we'll come out and we'll take a look at it. Now, if you have a computer virus, you're going to probably have to have somebody take care of
Right,
that.
there's nothing you can do to straighten that out.
Those can get complicated, and
Well, let me look, because we had some little notes here, and I think it's important to review those, because it's true. When you have noise interference.
yeah, the screenshots that I hope that we can put into the program here basically show a graph, and when we look at this graph, or rather a technical person looks at
Right.
the graph, because I'm not the technical person, but we have carriers that establish the signal level for the cable modem network. And if you look at the graph, just down at the floor, you'll see some activity, and that's really noise. And noise can come from anywhere.
Right.
Noise can come from an electric fan or an electric motor, or in the case of the electric grid,
Right.
If there are some connections on
Could be a
the
loose
power
connection also on
companies.
some of your equipment.
If we have a loose connection in the house or out on the pole, electrical noise is always around us, and it gets in there. That noise can interfere with the performance of the cable modem. So we're working very hard also to go around the system to, when we go to do a service call, we check all the connections. We're trying to eliminate noise, and we'll never eliminate it completely.
Right.
But we want it low enough so that your carrier is up here and your noise floor is here. And we can look at that on a graph for all of the different parts of our system.
That'll let you know whether you have an internal problem, external problem with service, and it's just something that gives you a chance to be ahead of what any difficulty may arise.
But it also gives us early warning.
Right.
So that your neighborhood, for example, could be, we see a slow rise of the noise floor. And so our technical staff say, if we don't go out there and check this out, that's going to cause a problem for you at some point.
Right.
And so we're trying to be proactive and to look at use these software-based tools to look into this and manage the network that way.
I just think it's another step up in being able to control the environment that allows you to provide outstanding service.
Yeah, and the other thing that I'd really like to stress, and that is that this is not a situation where you can go and fix it and then it'll be perfect forever. Because what happens is there's a thunderstorm.
Right.
And there's a lightning surge. And the cable system suffers a surge of power. And one of the components gets damaged from that. And the problem is not evident immediately, but there's a noise problem created by that strike. And you know how many thunderstorms we had this summer.
Right.
So we'll have everything working fine, and then all of a sudden things would deteriorate. It's an ongoing continuum that we're on, and we're constantly working against that noise. We're just trying to keep the system as tight as possible and make it as fast as possible so you can watch YouTube.
And I think it's really important because one thing, and not to sound crabby, because I'm a consumer, I'm one of
I
your
know,
customers.
we keep records of your calls.
but the fact of the matter is, we insist on it working. If I go on and I'm using YouTube for whatever reason, I want it to work, and it has to work. Now, fortunately for me, I've been very satisfied as a customer, but part of my experience is knowing what the challenges are and knowing if I have an internal problem or external problem. And I haven't had, I can't even list on one hand the number of problems I've had over the years, but I'll call and I'll ask and I say, I'm experiencing this, you know, what can we do? And it's always a matter of, let me check our side first to make sure everything's the way it should be, and then look at some things in the house. And every once in a while, I'll find out that I have an issue with my computer. And much like yourself, I love the technology, but I'm not a technical mind. And so once you know what the problem is, if it's internal with the computer, then you can take steps and clear up your own problem. But with you, it's always a constant challenge to make sure you keep the speed and the performance up.
Yes, and if you go back several years, where people were happy just sending emails
And that's
around.
all it was
and,
at that
and
time,
everybody
yeah.
thought that was great.
Right.
The challenge now is really the volume of content, because you've got Netflix, which is the number one programming source that people demand. 35% of our entire capacity of our network is consumed on
That's
Friday and Saturday nights on Netflix.
Movies and television programs.
Right, and then
Right.
you've got YouTube, you've got Amazon now in the game
Right.
of providing content, and more different services are providing online content. They've got TV everywhere now, where ESPN and HBO are making their content available on the internet. So if you pay for a subscription, you can now get that program and walk around your house and look at that on a
NFL's
different...
doing it, baseball's doing it.
That's right.
They're all doing it.
So the demand has really changed, and the volume of content that's moving across the internet is really changed dramatically. And so that's what we're adapting to, and we're having to pay a lot more attention to keeping that signal for the cable modem network separated from the noise floor.
Right.
And we've made considerable strides in that direction. We're going to continue to work at it because it's an ongoing thing.
Not to be too crass, but you've also had to make a lot of investment.
That's right.
It's just necessary. Because it's never going to be less. It's always going to be more, isn't it?
Yeah, the fiber optic cable, when you run the fiber optic cable around an area to provide service, that's got enormous capacity, and if it's not damaged in some way, for example, we had a fire this summer
Yes.
that melted a lot of our fiber. But if it's not damaged, that capacity is always going to be there. The thing that changes is what's on the end of those fibers, because fiber is really carrying signal using light and all the different colors in the light spectrum. And so we have to put on electronics, and when we want to make it faster, we have to change out the old electronics and invest in new ones. And that's what we keep doing when we say we're making an investment. We're upgrading the equipment.
Right. But again, let's go back now about your tools. I like the idea of this new tool, new system that you have. And again, we're going to show graphics while we're talking about that. Give us another look at that, James.
Yeah, one system is called Path Track, and we've talked before about how we've got 1,000 miles of plant, and we've got about 150 different locations. We call them nodes, where we break the system up so we only have a handful of modems on all of these nodes. Well, some more than a handful, but
it's for efficiency.
we break it apart so that it doesn't get congested. And this one software program, Path Track, allows any of our technicians with any computer connection, even an iPhone, to go on and say they're looking at the node that serves your house. They can see what's going on. They can see, are there problems there? Is the noise floor really flat? Are the carriers for the cable modem network, are they in good shape? Or if they're not, we know we've got to go out there, we've got to go to the amplifiers, we've got to balance them and make sure that everything's set up properly, all the levels are correct. But it allows us to pinpoint our activities, whereas before it was, we'll pick this area and we'll go out and we'll sweep and balance and do it, and maybe we've got a worse area over here. So that
but
now
you're not aware of it, but now you can.
It's more offense than defense.
Right.
Defense is where the customer calls up and says, it doesn't work. And then we roll a truck.
And then you're going, try to get it fixed as
Now
quickly
we
as
want to be
possible.
offense, and this software allows us to do this. The other software I talked about allows us to go, neighborhood by neighborhood graphically and pinpoint where all the cable modems are, and we can actually look at the levels on each one of those devices. Because the cable modems are sending signals back to our central locations. And we can get a lot of important data off of that and tell if it's functioning properly. If it is, then it's likely that there's a problem inside the house, a network type problem of some sort, or a virus on a computer or
loose
something.
connections, whatever it may be.
And that can help facilitate the repair, as opposed to waiting for a service guy to get out there and do all of that troubleshooting on site. We can do it remotely.
Right. I think that's terribly important. And our goal?
The goal is ultimately to run, it'll never be, the noise will never go away completely. But the goal is to, one by one, each service call, to tighten up all the fittings, keep the system as noise-free as possible, and then keep the capacity of the internet connection at the highest level, so that when you stream YouTube, you get what you want.
Performance.
That's right.
Because that's really what the customer is asking.
That's right.
I want to use my device or devices, and I want them to work the way I want them to work, and that's your goal.
Yeah, and it's fortunate that technology is giving us now advanced diagnostic tools, software-based tools to do this, because operationally, you can imagine the challenge of routing service vehicles over 1,000 miles on a daily basis to try to go to this house, this house, this house.
Wyndham, Cooksaki.
That's right.
Catskill, Greenville. Yeah.
That's right. It's a logistical issue, and this way it allows you to really focus in and solve the bigger problems that are affecting a lot of customers, and then if there's not a big problem, find out what it is that's causing the problem and fix it.
As quickly as possible.
That's right.
James, as always, Thanks for taking the time.
Thank
we
you, Jim.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
And we'll invite you back so we can just keep a heads up on this.
Well, it's a
okay?
work in progress, so we're keeping at it.
That's for sure. I want to thank James Reynolds, President of Mid-Hudson Cablevision, for spending time with us to let us know what's going on in the way of service to customers. Terribly important. We also want to thank you for joining us again on All the Right Connections. This is a special edition,
It is.
but look for us on our regular show, All the Right Connections. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you soon.